9.3, two-way tables. All right, so a two-way table displays two categories of data collected from the same source. You randomly survey students in your school about their grades on the last test and whether they studied for the test. The two-way table shows your results. Each entry is called a joint frequency. So we've got the grades, so whether they passed or they failed, and then whether they studied or didn't study. So this means that 21 students studied, passed, and one student who studied did not pass, he failed, or she. And two students that did not study passed, whereas six students who did not study failed. So you can see that there's definitely a correlation. You can see if you studied, you are very likely to pass, and if you didn't study, you are more likely to fail. Okay, so how many of the students in the survey above studied for the test and passed? Well, 21 out of 22 of them total studied for the test and passed. All right, so the sums in rows of columns are called marginal frequencies. So this right here is a marginal frequency. This is a marginal frequency. This is a marginal frequency, okay? And total marginal frequency. So marginal frequency is the sum of how many total students passed, or how many total students failed, or how many total students studied, how many total students did not study, and then how many total students there were. So it says to find and interpret the marginal frequencies. Well, this tells us 23 students passed, 7 students failed, and there are 30 students that were surveyed. There were 22 students that studied and 8 students who did not study. All right, so it says you randomly survey students in the cafeteria about their plans for a football game and a school dance. The two-way table shows your results. How many students will attend the dance but not the football game? So let's go ahead and extend our table. And we'll put our totals. So 35 plus 5, that means there's 40 here. 16 plus 20 means there's 36 here. And then total, that would be 76. Okay, if we add going down, 35 plus 16 is 51. And 5 plus 20 is 25. And you should be able to double check that 51 plus 25 is 76. If it's not the same total this way and this way, you know you've made an error somewhere. Okay, so it says how many students will attend the dance. So that would be this one here, but not the football game. That would be 5. So we're able to read the table to answer the questions. So find and interpret the marginal frequencies. Well, we had 40 that attended the dance. We have 36 that didn't attend the dance. There's 76 total students. There's 51 students that attended the game. And there are 25 that did not attend the game. So that's how we're able to interpret them. Okay, so the next one, it says you randomly survey students between the ages of 12 and 17 about whether they ride the bus to school or not. The results are shown in the tally sheet. So we're going to make a two-way table that includes the marginal frequency. So that means we do want to have our totals included with it as well. So let's make our table. Oops. Let me get rid of that line. Okay. Okay, so we have 12 to 13-year-olds, we have 14 to 15-year-olds, and we have 16 to 17-year-olds, and we'll have our totals. And we have ride the bus, and we have don't ride, and we have our totals. Okay, so then we just have to count how many are for each of them. So for riding the bus, there are 24 12 to 13-year-olds. For riding the bus, there are 12 14 to 15-year-olds. And for riding the bus, there are 14 16 to 17-year-olds, which means total there are 50 that ride the bus. For don't ride the bus, that's this one down here. Let's see, there are 16 12 to 13-year-olds. There are 18 14 to 15-year-olds. And there are 21 16 to 17-year-olds. So total, that would be 55. Which means total there are 105 students. So let's do our totals across. So this would give us 40. And this would give us 30. And add those together, and that would give me 35. Double check, 40 plus 30 plus 35 is 105. Okay, so it says make a two-way table, includes the marginal frequencies. Our totals, those are the marginal frequencies, so we do have those included. So now it says, using the two-way table you created, find the percent of students in the survey for each age group that ride the bus to school and do not ride the bus to school. So how do we find percents? You're going to take your number divided by total for that section. So if I come back up here to this table, if I'm wanting to write in percents, okay, what I would need to do would be 24 divided by 40. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 24 divided by 40. And when I do 24 divided by 40, it'll give me 0.6. And I should add that down here, sorry. And then you'll multiply that number by 100 because we're changing it from a decimal to a percent. So that means move the decimal over 2 places. So 0.6 turns into 60%. So for this one, I would do 16 divided by 40 because of the 12 to 13-year-olds, 16 of them don't ride the bus of the 40 total. So 16 divided by 40 would give me 40%. Okay. For the 14 to 15-year-olds, how many ride the bus? We would do 12 divided by 30, which is 40.4, which is 40%. And then we would do 18 divided by 30, which would give me 60%. And for the 16 to 17-year-olds, we do 14 divided by 35. That gives me 0.4, which is 40%. And 21 divided by 35 is 0.6, or 60%. So we're able to find our percent of each age group that ride and percent of each that don't ride. Okay. We have one more. It says you randomly survey students in a school about whether they buy a school lunch or pack a lunch. The results are shown. We're going to make a two-way table that does include our marginal frequencies. So let's see. Sorry, that's my daughter. You can probably hear in the background. Just having a little fun while I'm making my videos. All right. So we've got 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, and we can have our totals. And then we've got ones that buy. Let's see, pack, we'll do pack first. That's listed first. And buy would be the second, and then total would go here. Okay, so I'm going to let you fill in each of these spots. Once you have them filled in, pause. After you pause the video, come back and check and see how you did. Okay, so in the 6th grade, there are 11 that pack and 9 that buy, for a total of 20 6th graders. For the 7th graders, there are 23 that pack and 27 that buy, for a total of 50 7th graders. And for our 8th graders, there are 16 that pack and 14 that buy, for a total of 30 8th graders. Total, there are 100 students, and I can add my other columns up to get 50 here and 50 here. Those are 50s, 80s. Sorry, my pen carried a little bit. Okay. So we've got our two-way table, includes marginal frequencies. For each grade level, what percent of the students in the survey pack a lunch or buy a lunch? So we're going to make a separate table because it says to organize it in a table. And it'll look exactly the same as this one. We'll have 6th, 7th, and 8th and our totals. we'll have pack, and we'll have buy, and we'll have our total. Okay? So if we want to know, remember we're going to do this number divided by this one because we want to know how many of our sixth graders pack, what percent pack. So we're going to do 11 divided by 20. And when you do that, you get 0.55, which is 55%. And then of how many that buy, we're going to do 9 divided by 20, which would give us 45%. Okay, see if you can do the 7th and the 8th grade ones. Okay, for 7th grade, we'll do 23 divided by 50, which is about 46%. Remember to always multiply by 100 to change your percent and decimal into a percent. And then we will do 27 divided by 50, which will give me 54%. And for 8th grade, we're going to do 16 divided by 30, which is 53%. And then we'll do 14 divided by 30, which will be 47%. And they should always add up to 100%. Otherwise, you know you've done something wrong because we're accounting for every single one of them. Okay, so that would be making this part here. So explain what each of the entries represents. 55% of the 6th graders pack their lunch. 45% of the 6th graders buy their lunch. 46% of the 7th graders pack their lunch, and 54% of the 7th graders buy their lunch. 53% of the 8th graders pack their lunch, and 47% of the 8th graders buy their lunch. All right, does the table in part B, so that's this one here, show a relationship between grade level and lunch choice? Yeah, you can see that more 6th graders prefer to pack their lunch, more 7th graders prefer to pack their lunch, and more 8th graders prefer to pack their lunch. So 6th and 8th graders prefer to pack, and 7th graders prefer to buy their lunch. So that would be the trend that we can show of what's happening. All right, take a second and write your summary on a two-way table. Don't forget to talk about what your marginal frequencies are and a reminder on how you find this percent, that it's this number divided by this one, this number divided by this one, and so forth. If there's anything you have questions on, star it, mark it, and